All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Next slide, please. Hi, everyone. My name is Taylor Arthur, and I'm a marketing intern for the Developer Initiative here at Oracle. Thank you for joining us today at Oracle Cloud Coaching, Infrastructure, Monitoring, and Management. We're excited to be able to share with you how Oracle Management Cloud allows you to very easily monitor all of your IT assets, quickly troubleshoot any issues, and then analyze your data over a longer period of time to spot trends. If you have any questions during the webcast, please ask them in the Q&A area, and we'll answer them live after the presentation. This webcast is being recorded and we'll make it available shortly after the webcast concludes. Today's webcast will be presented by Tanvi Varadachari, Staff Cloud Engineer. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Tanvi.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm a cloud engineer with Oracle, and I'm excited to present to you all today. So Oracle Management Cloud is a lightweight monitoring and intelligent analytics tool for IT personnel. In simpler terms, it's as Taylor said, just a suite of different offerings that lets you easily monitor your IT assets, troubleshoot your problems, and then both proactively and reactively, and then analyze that data to spot trends in performance and availability. And it's specifically designed for today's heterogeneous environments. So organizations that have a mixture of on-premises, Oracle Cloud, and third-party services. Oracle Management Cloud is able to do this by collecting data from the lightweight agents that you deploy in your infrastructure, displaying and analyzing your data with our out-of-the-box analytics and machine learning tools, and then finally using that data to provide easy-to-understand operational insights. So here's a quick look at the architecture. There's several different types of agents you can deploy. Our cloud agent pulls in metrics as well as logs. Our APM agent pulls in application-specific data. And then finally, the last kind of agent is a data collector. So that integrates with another management tool, Oracle Enterprise Manager, so is able to utilize OMC's analytics tools to provide a bit more insight. All of that passes through optional gateway agents and corporate proxies to Oracle Management Cloud. And other data sources include end users, REST APIs, and then other cloud services such as Amazon or Microsoft. There's 4 primary suites in Oracle Management Cloud. Application performance monitoring and infrastructure monitoring examine, as it sounds, your application and infrastructure information respectively. OMC agents will bring in performance, availability, and load metrics for your servers, browsers, anything you're monitoring. IT analytics takes that data coming in and leverages machine learning to generate deeper insights and long-term predictions. In addition to metrics, OMC also pulls in logs for all your different systems. And log analytics unifies this data, allowing for analysis across different environments, and is also able to utilize machine learning to spot any trends. As a developer, you will mostly use application performance monitoring, infrastructure monitoring, and log analytics. So we'll be focusing on those today. So here's a quick look. When you log in, you can see all of the different tools we have available. This is the Oracle Management Cloud homepage. It does a great job of being a single solution regardless of your management needs. At the top, you can see the 3 suites we mentioned that we'll be going over today. But as you can see, there's a whole bunch of different tools available through OMC. Another really important one in the bottom right is database management. It's a suite that allows you to look at your full database fleet. It has pretty similar metrics to infrastructure monitoring, however, it does have some added deep dive analytics for autonomous databases if you're using those. So starting with application performance monitoring, APM monitors users and application performance and integrates this information with other tiers. So I'm going to start with some OMC basics. In the top right, we have the time context. So this is just filtering the data coming into different time periods. So you can do the last 60 minutes, 24 hours, 7 days, or even a custom time frame. And a custom time frame would be really, really important to use if you're aware of a certain issue that happened at a specific time, and you're really trying to filter the data coming in to look at, to try to troubleshoot that problem. But at least for right now, we're going to look at the last 7 days. To the left of that is the global context. So You can use this to filter for an entity or a composite entity. And in this case, we're just using the term entity to refer to just a piece of your IT infrastructure, your IT environment that you're monitoring. It could be something like a database, a WebLogic server, and if it's a composite entity, it would be maybe an application that has lots of associated servers and databases. So I'm going to go ahead and select an order application that we have up in our environment. And as you can see, the view has changed a bit, and we can pull down the global context and see all of the different components of this composite entity. So we have a database, we have a host, and this view is called the topology. So it lets you view the relationships between your assets and determine how they affect each other. If one of your entities is experiencing issues, you can, since you can see the relationships, you can quickly diagnose if it's due to an issue on another resource and get ahead on how the rest of your infrastructure might be impacted. So since the APM service is integrated with other services, you can easily extend the analysis to other tiers of the stack. So for example, if I view this database, I could actually open up more information in database management, IT analytics, log analytics, monitoring, and just more quickly troubleshoot if there's any issues. So looking at the home page for order application, we can see both end user information in the form of the sessions and the pages, as well as server information with the transactions and server requests. And you have the option to drill down into each of these fields to get more information. So in this case, we can see that over 10% of our transactions are ending in errors, and it seems to be trending upward. So that's something we would want to drill into and troubleshoot. So let's look at the past 7 days. And we can see that we seem to be having some issues in our order applications checkout, and that's definitely something we'd want to fix, since we don't want anyone placing orders and trying to purchase them to not be able to go through that process. So let's drill into one of our checkout server requests. So you can see that over 50% of the calls are resulting in errors and not able to be completed. So the first thing you can see is the full call tree. So all of the different orders, so all of the different calls that are being placed for this server request process, including the SQL statement. So if I click on that, you can see the full SQL statement, the SQL ID, as well as the database being called. So that means if there's any slowdown on this portion of the server request, you know exactly how to troubleshoot from the database perspective. So you really can underestimate the importance of being able to connect information between your applications and databases. Looking back at the diagram, you're able to resize these by different features just to try to understand where the bottleneck is. So in this case, if we're looking at the average response time, it's really focused here. So this is the portion that's delaying the response time a bit. Looking at the metrics, we can see how it's performing over the past 7 days. So here we can see the max mid response time as well as the average response time, and even flag for any anomalies. So in this case, it's kind of pretty standard. So we don't really have any weird response times to look at. We just really have to troubleshoot the actual error. So we can look at the specific instances that are failing and get a bit more information that way. So going to say this instance from this morning, August 9th, I can drill into that and again, kind of see the full call tree and how long each of those sections is taking. So here we see that this host to this remote server took the majority of the time, and we can even get the drop a snapshot. So we can see the method name and all of the different calls that were made and kind of how much, like which line it was in, which file name it was in. So really getting a lot of insight to immediately diagnose the issue. And if we click into this here, we can see the stack trace if one exists, but in this case, we do see at least the error code. So we've kind of immediately diagnosed our issues and cut down on war room time. So we started with just knowing that we had our checkouts that were failing, and we went all the way to knowing where in the country we were having problems and what we have to focus our troubleshooting on as a team working on this order application. And you do have a bit more information with the different snapshots again. And besides just that one that's focused on the bottleneck, you have a lot that are taken throughout the process just to really provide as much information as possible. So now I'm going to remove this server request and talk a bit more about how to react proactively, right? So, or how to troubleshoot proactively. That was a bit reactive. We were looking at errors in our environment, but you can also kind of be sure to just always be optimizing your application for end users. So one thing that's really valuable is being able to see the geography. So in this case, we can see different response times based on location. And that's something you'd want to address, especially if you're a global business, right? You wouldn't want end users in one area to be having a different experience than end users in a different country or state. Another useful feature is looking at your pages. So you can you can sort by metrics such as maximum load time in order to just make sure that you don't have any pages that are taking too long and perhaps frustrating users. So looking at this page, which takes about 16 seconds on average to load, we can see over the past 7 days that there's actually, if we look at the metrics, there's actually a fixed pattern. So it seems like at 6 a.m. every day, there's a huge spike in the page load time. So that could indicate that maybe a lot of users are accessing it. Maybe like a batch job is running. So as a developer, you should know the load your page should be able to handle, and kind of time resources to be able to react to different patterns and different situations. And again, we have the option to flag for anomalies, but even though these are kind of spiking at 6 a.m., OMC is able to recognize that pattern, right? So it recognizes this spike today just because it wasn't as high as usual, but these are kind of considered standard behavior. So it really does have a lot of strong machine learning capabilities. The last part of APM that we're going to look at is the alerts. So alerts are actually specific to all of the suites. So here I could filter by APM, log analytics, monitoring, IT analytics. It's also filtered by my entity, but in this case, it looks like our order application hasn't had any alerts come in. But but it really is just looking at all of the information coming in and just letting you know if there's any problems. So you could create an alert for a fixed threshold, for an anomaly, for metric errors, availability, and of course, there's different levels of severity based on what OMC is seeing. So looking at the critical, looks like we have some issues in our EBS server, but you can actually set up these alerts that they are sent to you by email, via text, or even third-party applications you might be using, such as PagerDuty. And you can actually set up tickets for these alerts if interested, so that your entire time, so as your entire team is using OMC to troubleshoot issues, you can make sure several of you aren't working on the same problem in OMC. So that's a look at APM. Now we're going to look at infrastructure monitoring. I had a question actually from earlier. Is the topology configured automatically? If you all remember, that's when we opened up this global context and we're able to see all the different connected components. And the answer is yes, it is configured automatically. Since you deploy the agents communicate with each other and know how all of the different components are related and are able to kind of create those connections themselves. So again, it's auto-discovered, which is really cool and makes working with applications super easy. So now we're looking at infrastructure monitoring. Infrastructure monitoring allows you to proactively monitor the status and health of your entire IT infrastructure. So it pulls in all the information across different tiers and allows administrators to be alerted on issues and then troubleshoot and resolve them before end users are impacted. So there's a lot of different entity types that are supported. And again, OMC is for multi-cloud environments. So not just Oracle applications, but Microsoft, AWS, different types of databases as well. So it's really pulling, so it's pulling in the availability and performance metrics for kind of any sort of entities in your IT estate. In this case, today we're going to drill down into a WebLogic server. So you can see we have our 5 WebLogic servers right now in our environment. So I'm going to choose this one. You could see any open alerts. In this case, our server doesn't have any open alerts. Next, we're able to see performance charts. So it's kind of similar to APM, but a bit more focused on infrastructure metrics. And you also, again, are kind of automatically discovering any anomalies. And you can set alerts to be triggered not only on certain thresholds for CPU, but again, on these anomalies. So you can just make sure that your environment isn't getting overloaded. And you can configure this page to show whatever metrics your organization deems most valuable. So right now we have our web request processing time, our web request rate, and we can also add in additional, WebLogic server specific fields such as active threads, garbage collection information. So you do have a lot of control and customization available with this. You can also see any related entities. So this is similar to the topology, but just kind of, again, just automatically seeing how the cloud agents are communicating with each other and discovering relationships. And you can, again, see any that have related issues and quickly switch to them. So looking at this WebLogic domain, I can see that the heap utilization has been increasing and is over 70%. So that's important for a Java developer to understand how your WebLogic application might be eating up memory. So I could again open this up in say my WebLogic dashboard, log analytics, monitoring, etc. In this case, though, we're going to look at our host. So if I click on it, it automatically changes the filter up there and keeps me in the same suite. But now if we look at the performance charts, they are kind of totally different metrics that we're looking at. So they're host specific rather than WebLogic specific. So we're seeing the network read rate, we're seeing file system usage. So this just kind of shows that there's a lot of deep insight into Oracle product sus metrics as well as third-party products. So there's really specialized data coming in, very specific metrics, no matter what you're monitoring. And certain fields such as network read rate, database information, that's also standardized across different products and different cloud providers that you can kind of directly compare hosts from different types. So next we're going to look at log analytics. So log analytics aggregates, indexes, and explores logs to troubleshoot problems. And there's a huge number of different log sources available, over 200. And again, not just Oracle logs, but again, both from multi-cloud environments, so AIX, Apache, I'm just going alphabetically here. But again, so there's 264 different log sources. And you also have the ability to customize your own if one you're looking for isn't available. But Log Explorer is just a hugely valuable tool because with so many logs coming in today, you really can't comb through them by hand and immediately sort out what's important. So, I mean, in just the past 24 hours, you can see we've had almost 1 million logs come in, right? So one tool we have to just really help with looking at which logs might be most important is ML Cluster. So ML Cluster goes through your logs and sorts them into distinct groups. So it's really looking at it's grouping the logs together so you can more rapidly identify any potential issues, any outliers, any patterns, and really focus on making sure you know what's causing these and which ones are most important. So here we said this cluster has occurred almost 5,000 times in the past 24 hours. So it's kind of labeled automatically by OMC as a high problem priority. You also see any outliers, so just can maybe like one-time weird errors that aren't really considered usual for your environment. So again, just flagging those and making sure you're aware of them. The other feature of ML that's really valuable is cluster compare. So you can actually look at ML cluster differences between two time periods and see if there's any issues that happened in one time period but not the other. So that's really valuable because if you've had a weird problem in your environment, you can identify which patterns are very unique to that time period, and you know that they're related, and you can drill down into that log a bit more. And again, you also have the ability to create your own visualization. So that's an analysis tool, but there's a lot of visualizations available out of the box. So here, for example, we can see a sunburst visualization, and you can filter on different fields. So in this case, we're going to filter by our WebLogic server. And we can then, and now that we're with filter on the WebLogic server, these are all the different WebLogic fields available to us. So you have a lot of opportunities to kind of create your own views, and you can actually save these to dashboards and reuse them. So in this case, we can now see all of our WebLogic servers and the different errors that they're experiencing. So these three seem to all be explaining this error ID over 55,000 times. And again, you can add a lot of detail to this as you just add in more and more fields. Now I'm going to take a second and answer some of the questions in the Q&A. So there's one question that says, is there any plan to add JD Edwards as a predefined entity? I'd have to look that up. I don't know that off the top of my head. So I'm not sure about that, but I can kind of get back to you. And then is it possible to monitor and manage all the different kinds of DB services provided by third-party cloud? So databases on VMs and other DB services on Azure or Google Cloud. So yes, there are a lot of database services that can be managed, but I think I'd have to share the here. At the end of the call, I'm going to share a list of the infrastructure monitoring metrics document. So there's a ton of different databases. Some are supported by OMC, some aren't. I'm not going to kind of go through them, list them on the call, but I'll add them in at the end. And then, does this work on-prem for engineered systems like M8? Yes, this is compatible with on-premises workloads. So now I'm going to go back and talk a bit about dashboards. So dashboards, so when you create these visualizations in Log Analytics, you can actually save them to these dashboards. So these allow you to focus on a precise use case without getting distracted by other pieces of information. So you take data coming into OMC and you create your own customized visualizations to answer kind of any specific questions you have or just create your own view. So I'm going to look at, say, our group dashboard. So this is a pretty basic one, but just kind of shows you that you have a lot of different visualizations available. So this was created in Log Analytics. So if I open this up, it would take me to Log Analytics. These were just created with the metrics coming in from infrastructure monitoring. These visualizations were just available out of the box. So again, you have a lot of options. So if I open this up, it takes me to Data Explorer. So this is just this is another kind of visualization builder such as Log Explorer, but instead of using the logs, it's using the metrics coming in from infrastructure monitoring. But same as with Log Explorer, you have a lot of options for fields and data. So as well as, you could even set up, say, any custom metrics you would like. And you have the ability to add in some additional features such as insights. So this is just a verbal explanation of the data, and even trend and forecasting. So this is actually predicting for certain metrics how it's going to change over time. So it's really cool because you just have the ability to use some machine learning just out of the box, even for your own visualizations. So that is a quick look at Oracle Management Cloud. Now I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint because I'd like to speak a bit about about one of our new tools, which is observability management, which is basically a Gen 2 OMC that's really focused on taking a lot of the features and moving them into a cloud native form. So there are 6 new services within observability management. And again, these are OCI native services based on OMC. And the purpose is to leverage our existing services such as monitoring, notifications, events to provide deeper insights. And I know a lot of OCI developers are using some of these existing services such as functions and streaming. So depending on your use case, O&M might be a good fit for your team. Some of the services such as logging and monitoring are scoped primarily for targets in OCI and optimized for developers, versus some of the other OMC successor services sit on top of those and are scoped for both OCI and non-OCI environments. So on-prem, multi-cloud, but they're a bit more optimized as a result for enterprise IT personnel. So app admins, DBAs, IT operations. So these successor services include logging analytics, application performance monitoring, operations insight, and database management. And in parentheses, you see that the OMC suite that they correspond to. So on the left is the observability management tool, and on the right is the OMC tool. But they're going to pull the relevant OCI specific telemetry from the OCI services, and then we'll directly gather other data from outside of OCI to combine them and provide the same unified view we have in OMC. However, this is kind of a product still being developed, so there are some limitations. There's no infrastructure monitoring suite, so it's really just utilizing OCI monitoring with OCI notifications. It's also hasn't fully moved all the IT analytics components into it, so the Operation Insights only includes database planning and SQL analytics. So you can't really predict host utilization or server utilization, which IT analytics has. And then finally, you can't leverage all of the infrastructure monitoring metrics or out-of-the-box dashboards, which means there's a limited use case for packaged applications such as EBS or PeopleSoft. But I'm going to quickly go over just 2 of the 2 O&M components that I mentioned were a bit more developer focused. So since these don't really have OCI or OMC equivalents. So the first is logging. It's a new tool and just makes collecting logs from OCI way easier. It offers you a centralized location to bring all of your OCI logs into one view. So that will include your infrastructure, your Oracle databases, application logs, audit logs, but it's all in cloud native open standards. So our log ingestion experience is powered by FluentD, which allows you to leverage community open source plugins. It also allows you to make every log line actionable in almost real time, since it integrates with the Service Connector Hub. And with this integration, you can easily push your logs to third-party destinations or take action on them with service connectors. So Service Connector Hub, which I just mentioned, is a tool that makes integration with third parties easier. So it recognizes that enterprises have really complex observability needs and often use a combination of tools from different vendors to connect everything. So again, it just allows you to move data to any third-party tool of your choice, which removes the need to retool or change your operational posture. Plus, developers often need to go through a learning curve since individual service-to-service integration has its own control plane. So it kind of addresses that pain. It offers a central place where admins can manage and monitor movements across all of their services, both within OCI and from OCI to third-party tools. So that is a quick look at OMC and infrastructure management. So no matter your role in an IT organization, I think the ability to look at all of the moving pieces of your environment through that single pane of glass and utilize data coming in is so important. We have metrics being collected all the time. So being able to leverage those to proactively deal with issues is really valuable. I hope you all enjoyed today's session. I'll now open up to the floor to any questions and answer some of the ones that are in the chat.
All right, perfect. If you're experiencing a roadblock that isn't serious enough to warrant a service request, or maybe you just purchased OCI and are looking for an additional onboarding session, cloud coaching clinics pair you one-on-one with a cloud engineer to assist you on your cloud journey. We offer workshops and demos for deeper dives on a particular service, provide sample code, and provision/configuration services. Please visit the link on this slide to sign up, and I'll also provide it in the chat now. All right, next slide, please. If you're interested in Red Bull racing or machine learning, we have an event that's perfect for you. You can expect to learn how to build and tune your machine learning model to use race data sets in this hands-on lab with the help of Oracle experts. This event takes place this Wednesday at 8 a.m. PST, and I'll provide that link in the chat too. If you enjoyed today's session, here are 2 additional resources you can look at. And you can also sign up for next month's cloud coaching on machine learning and data science. Here are also links to other developer events, your trial again, and we'd love to hear any feedback that you may have for us. Please feel free to send any questions about today's session, suggestions about future topics you'd like for us to cover, or how to request your own cloud coach to our email at cloudcoach_us_grp@oracle.com. I'd like to thank Tanvi again for this great presentation, and thank you for spending your time with us here. We'll make today's recording available on the session page and send the link out in an email as well. So I'll go ahead and end the session. We hope that you have a wonderful day, and we hope to see you again next time as well.